Hey, welcome back to the channel. Canada Builds Homes. This is the new announcement from the Liberal government in terms of their housing policy. Today we're going to talk about the details of that platform and whether or not it's going to make real estate more affordable for consumers. And we're also going to touch on March sales data that was just released by the board. Real quick before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below or on screen, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, lots to talk about this week. We're going to jump right into it. I hope you had a wonderful week. We're going to start by talking about the sales data that came through for March. As was expected with all of the uncertainty globally, I would say, but uncertainty in the market as well. We had one of the slowest Marches on record in a long while. If we look at the Fraser Valley, for instance, it was the slowest March in approximately 15 years, less than 1,000 sales. On the Greater Vancouver side, it was our slowest March since 2019. So that includes March 2020, pandemic March, where for half of the month, everything was shut down. So we did about 2,100 sales, just under 2,100 sales on the Greater Vancouver side. To give you an idea, on a typical March, we are roughly around 3,300 sales. So off of that 10-year average number by about 36-37%. So sales significantly down, like I mentioned, as expected. We saw prices inch downwards as well year over year, depending on what sort of product type you were looking at. Condos taking the biggest hit. Attached homes, which we refer to as townhomes essentially, held fairly steady with pricing, and it really comes down to not being as much townhome inventory on the market, and it being quite an in-demand product, both from people who are upsizing, but then some folks that are downsizing, they're also downsizing into townhome type spaces. So a lot of demand on townhomes, but relatively speaking, more demand on the townhomes than there were on most detached homes out there that don't have that, development potential, for instance. And of course, condos, where we've seen a huge influx of condo inventory. I believe in the Fraser Valley now, record levels of condo inventory that they've ever seen. So right now, it's a bit of a holding pattern for a lot of buyers. What I'm noticing in my world is the folks that are still transacting are those that are undergoing life changes right now, where timing is so important. So whether that is a tenant whose condo has been sold, the one that they've been renting, and now they need to move into a new place, they don't want to rent again. That's one buyer today. Separations and divorces happening so frequently now. So that's another buy and sell today. Estate sales, someone passes away, they need to sell the home, that gets sold as well. But when we talk about who's in the market right now, I can tell you who's not in the market, and that would be the investor. The investors are completely on the sidelines, and the way to really think about that is, the one thing that investors and humans in general seek is stability, right? For an investor, they don't necessarily want to buy into a market where prices are escalating and appreciating at an extremely high clip, because that's also unstable in itself. They just want to see some level of stability so they can plan properly for the future. And right now, given the US-Canada relationship, also politically what's happening between us having an election and who's going to be the new leader, how everyone is going to be affected, it's a hold and see pattern. There's no stability in the market, and in times of instability, as humans, we hold on to stability. And for most of us, that is our homes. Our homes are one point of stability. So if a move is not necessary, most people are just standing back and waiting to see what happens. And that was reflected in the sales numbers. Again, one of the slowest Marches. March, we're generally is one of our busier months as we're heading into that true spring season. I do expect April is going to be a busier month, but we're well off of the average numbers that we should expect for March. Out there, out and about, I'm noticing showings are picking up. I may have mentioned it in the last video. Showings are picking up. Offers not necessarily. So sometimes you will go, view properties. You'll view a second time, and the home will check a lot of boxes. But ultimately, what happens is, in that week-long period where you're shopping around, more listings hit the market. There's a paradox of choice. So even if something fits the bill, there's more options on the table, and it creates kind of this confusion and this wait and see pattern that we're seeing filtered through the market. Again, I'm expecting that April is going to be a busier month, but definitely a slow and sluggish start to the spring season. All right, so I want to jump over now to the new housing platform. I say new, but realistically, this is also the same plan that former Liberal leader or Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced, where he had this lofty goal where they needed to build 3.5 million homes. I believe it was by 2031. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister right now, Liberal leader, announced his Canada Build Homes, where he is setting the goal or the target to build 500,000 homes per year over the next 5 years. Now, to put this in perspective in terms of how realistic this might be. The most amount of homes that we've ever built in Canada is around 270,000 per year. We typically hover around 220,000, 230,000 per year. So this plan now, it is basically setting record housing construction targets for the next 5 years, doubling. So basically every year for the next 5 years, we're supposed to be doubling the amount of output, where as a lot of us know, right now the construction just isn't happening. So how do the Liberal government plan to get to this $500,000 number? Well, if we look deeper into it, one of the things that is part of the plan is a big focus on prefabricated homes, or what we call prefab. And this is essentially where components are basically shipped out onto site, and then they're just basically assembled on site. You can think like manufactured homes, some laneway homes as well. You can think mobile home park, right? Manufactured homes. This is kind of the style of home that's going to be the focus of this plan to give the Liberals any chance of getting anywhere close to 500,000, because obviously what we're doing now is not working. And the way that it's being described is a deeply affordable housing model. So you have to really look into the words of it. Deeply affordable, something that does not exist today. And if you want to hit an unrealistic number, you have to do something that is different. And so this is going to be the focus of the plan. Now, as part of the plan, the Liberal government is going to, basically create a new entity, a new government entity, Build Canada Homes. So another organization within the government that's going to have to do its hiring and bring their people in, and so additional costs, within that plan. And what they're going to do is they're going to offer $25 billion in financing to these prefab home builders. Now, prefab on its own is not necessarily cheaper. Oftentimes, it's usually around the same price as building a regular home. But one thing about prefab is they can build faster. So obviously, the whole premise behind the plan is they're going to work on speed. But as we know, in real estate, one of the most significant costs in that real estate is the land, right? The land is what appreciates. The building itself over time will depreciate, but that land holds its value. Now, as part of Build Canada Homes, they plan to free up federal lands for use for these new developments. So it's similar to what we saw with the NDP here in BC last year, BC Builds, where they're using government land, they are using First Nations land on a leasehold type of setup, meaning that if you are a purchaser of one of these units down the road, you will not own the land. You will own, your portion of that building, your unit, but you don't own any part of that land. Now, not a lot of people realize when you buy a stratified condo, we'll call it a typical condo, you're buying your unit, but you're also buying a percentage of the land itself. So in the case, for example, many decades down the road, a developer comes knocking on the door of that development, because now instead of having 50 units there, they can build 500. they would typically cut you a check because you own a portion of that land. Not a common scenario, but having that land is valuable. So they free up this government land. On the BC Build side, it's mainly towards rental housing construction. But on this federal side, they're going to free up, it's going to be leasehold land, and they're basically going to plop these, manufactured style homes, prefabricated homes across the country. Now, prefab, there are some builders out there that are building prefabricated homes and in fact building towers on Vancouver Island. I believe it's the first in Western Canada, maybe the first in Canada, high-rise construction with a prefabricated model. And again, the benefit behind that is the speed of construction. So this is obviously the way forward. The way the Liberals see it is to, again, add some more employees within government, another department where the taxpayers ultimately are going to pay for this, right? We're going to pay for the financing they're going to offer to prefab builders. We're going to pay for this new organization. Should we trust that this is going to be run efficiently? So basically what the Liberals are saying is we are going to become the private sector. And when we look at the Conservatives are saying, we are going to empower the private sector. So you have the Conservatives saying we're going to empower the private sector. You have the Liberals saying we are going to become the private sector. On the Conservative side, what they plan to do is they want to cut those development taxes. As we know, 30% of the price of a home, of the cost of a home, is taxation. And so they want to pull that out so developers can actually have some margin in their projects and they can actually move forward and build. The Conservatives are saying, well, look, we're not home builders. We're not the experts here. Let's leave that in the hands of the experts. If we jump back now to the Liberals and Mark Carney, well, Mark Carney has a background with one of the largest publicly traded real estate companies in the world, Brookfield. And Brookfield also holds real estate assets, of course, in Canada, but also heavily in the United States. And one of those assets where they've seen such heavy appreciation are mobile home parks. So as cost of living has increased, especially in parts of the US, the demand commercially for these mobile home parks has increased significantly. So at the end of last year, Brookfield, they owned a bunch of these mobile home parks. They sold off billions of dollars worth because the demand was there, and they were able to create great revenue by actually making that sale. So if anyone has experience and ties to this manufactured home type of product, it would be Carney, because he's obviously coming from being a chair member for Brookfield. So you can kind of see where this model is coming from. And I mentioned off the top, this was something that Justin Trudeau was announcing and pitching. He didn't really get into too many details, but as we know, Mark Carney has been an advisor to Trudeau over the last several years. So you can see how this plan, Build Canada Homes, it's been there for a while now, but now it's just Mark Carney as the new leader actually coming out with some details of it. So it makes you think, and it makes you wonder, if this is the plan forward, who is going to be the prefab builder? Who is the developer? And that would be the federal government. Who are they going to partner with in order to supply this housing for Canada? Which company might that be? Obviously, nothing is set in stone, and it would go out to tender and all of these sort of things. But, you want to connect the dots and kind of see how they're getting to this type of a model. So what does this mean now for you as a real estate buyer, myself as a buyer, or you are a seller? Stratified condos are going to become less and less and less prominent. As I mentioned, here in BC, big focus on rental housing, a lot of development switching over to purpose-built rentals, especially in the downtown area where their original plan is to have stratified condos. The developer looks at it and says, wow, we don't love this market for stratified condos. We're going to flip this over to rental housing. So you're seeing that rental housing pick up. You're seeing a lot more leasehold, like I just mentioned, on First Nations land. So again, you're going to be able to buy at more affordable rates, but the land itself is going to be on a longer term lease. Federally now, the plan is, affordable housing, deeply affordable, meaning that you're going to be giving up something. You're going to be giving up rights to the property. When you hear deeply affordable, you're not going to get everything that you want. We have to decide, is this the type of home ownership that we'd like to see? Obviously, we're in a crisis and we need more affordable housing. But ultimately what happens is, as there is financing and grants towards these prefab builders, and again, freeing up federal land, we're going to see more developers take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of them, because again, the costs are so significantly high. Now, before I end the video, one thing I will touch on is part of this liberal plan is to also help municipalities with development cost charges, to allow them to cut those in half for the developers, but federally they are going to offset. So what that means is that money is also going to come from somewhere, right? Because that money is going to have to go to the city, so they can now collect less and promote development. So, taxpayer wise, you're looking at the federal liberals, where we're going to be obviously putting in a lot of money into this new Build Canada Homes. Will we actually get the homes? Again, we're shooting at a target of 500,000 per year. Record, double. Is it going to happen? Now, you can say on the conservative side, if we're going to cut taxes, where is that revenue going to come from? So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But the interesting thing, I think, going into this election on the housing platform side is, although optically it may look like both parties are kind of similar, especially with the new home, the GST credit for first-time buyers on the liberal side, up to $1 million purchase. For all buyers on the conservative side, up to 1.3. Optically, it looks like they're running along the same path, but in fact, in principle, like I just explained, it's vastly different. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, hit the like button, because what that does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can also learn from it. And if you enjoy weekly real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. And lastly, again, if you're in the Lower Mainland and you want to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a free call, or you can just give me a call. Send me a text, shoot me an email, whatever is easiest for you. I'd love to chat with you, but I want to thank you again for watching this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.